Hi, we're here talking with JohanHarstad, author of Buzz Aldrin, What Happened to You and All the Confusion, originally published in Gyldendal in 2005 when the author was 26 years old, now in 2011 making its North American debut from Seven Stories Press in New York. So, can you tell us something about Buzz Aldrin, What Happened to You and All the Confusion, and what led you to write it?
Yeah. It started with an idea of trying to uh, consider people who seem quite non-typical for our time. I mean, in modern times it seems that everyone is trying to get famous or become like either a well-known singer or artist or participant in one of those reality shows or talent contests or something. I wanted to have a character who slightly opposed to that, but not in a very aggressive way. He just said, "I'm not into that. I'm going to do the opposite, not as a protest really, but just as a way of living his life, basically." And so the main character in the book is Matthias. He's a gardener, and his friends would have loved him to do something other than doing gardening, because he is probably the best singer ever in Norway. He's a great vocalist, but he refuses to sing. And the reason he chooses to be a gardener is because it's very quiet. He can be very anonymous and stay in the background. And that is what he wants with his life. He doesn't need anyone to tell him that, he's great at what he's doing, because he knows when he's good. And his life's hero is Buzz Aldrin, who of course was the second man on the moon, only 19 minutes after Neil Armstrong. So he tries basically to live his life in accordance with what he thinks Buzz Aldrin does. And this leads him on a very strange voyage, taking him to the remote country of the Faroe Islands, which is a group of very small islands situated between Norway and Iceland in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
I remember at one point we have a map in our office of the world, and I was trying to find the Faroe Islands at one point, and it's just not. I think they're omitted from maps, so it's sort of this.
I know, and when I was researching the book, I found that as well many times, even with maps of just Europe, and you would have, of course, Great Britain, and you would have like the Shetland Islands, and even I'm not sure what it's called in English, the
Orkneys.
Yeah, the Orkneys. Which I think is even smaller than the Faroe Islands, but for some reason they just
something about these islands makes people not want to.
And of course, it could be that it's interesting when you arrive in the Faroe Islands, either by boat or if you come by airplane. It's usually hidden in the fog, so you have to kind of know where it is. So in the beginning, when you're approaching in the airplane, you think that we're just doing a random dive here, but they have started the final approach. So it's a hidden treasure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where this character is sort of hiding out over there. I mean, it's interesting. One of the reviews, I believe, actually called your book "The Great Faroese Novel." Do you feel that you've sort of done this, or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there are a few Faroe Island novels, which of course are to a much larger degree the Great Faroe Island novel. And since I'm not from there, I of course I possibly not do it. But at the time the novel came out, there wasn't too many novels written about modern day Faroe Island life. So in a way I was trying to say something about it, and I was trying to write a book that would also be like a celebration of this very small place. But I'm very happy that the people of the Faroe Islands have taken to it, and they seem to enjoy the book. And
And sort of the interesting thing is also that the book, just that it's making its American debut, the book actually has quite a bit to do in a certain way with American culture, certainly, and you have an American character who sort of comes in. If you could speak sort of, what was going on with that?
I think at least in Norway and my generation, we grew up with all these things. We grew up with all these films and all these TV series and all the literature and all the politics, really. I think when I come to America, I'm surprised, somewhat surprised to hear that the Americans are surprised to hear that we know American culture, because it's such a big part of our lives. Both the good parts and the bad parts of American culture and American politics, of course. So when I was writing the book, I wasn't trying to add into the mix like a lot of pop culture that didn't feel personal or anything.
Right.
It's just the music and the films I grew up with, which I guess is more or less the same that most Americans grew up with. And in Norway, these things coexistence with Norwegian culture and Scandinavian culture and European culture, and it's sometimes difficult to find out which is which. I think which you will see if you when you come to Norway. Also, how Norwegians more and more tend to incorporate English words or phrases in their daily speech.
Right, because there's so much of the book there's like long quotes from things like Steve Martin films, or like lyrics or different things like that are coming. I think because the songs Matthias is singing usually are even English, right? Like which is.
And again, this has to do with our upbringing and our the different culture the different aspects of culture we experienced when we were growing up. And the reason I'm doing this, the reason I'm letting you know which songs they're listening to, which films they are watching, or anything, is, in a way, it's the same as doing it's a part of the psychological portrait in a way. I mean, the music you're listening to more or less defines who you are, right? And the same with the films. So instead of just talking about the characters, how they feel or who they are, and she was like this and that, you can also say that she's just listening to the Cardigans, so she's into LA Story or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So your writing gets compared to a lot of people. I believe Jonathan Safran Foer is usually a touchstone. Murakami's a touchstone. You spoke at the Murakami Festival.
Yeah.
I can see Günter Grass a little bit. Do you think that these are sort of fair comparisons, or who do you sort of look to as what you're writing in the tradition of, or do you think you're sort of starting from a different place altogether?
It's difficult for me to say because since I'm writing it, I'm kind of just living inside
right,
it. So it's always difficult. But of course, being when Safran Foer or Murakami is mentioned in the same sentence, it's always a pleasure because I think those are two very great writers, and even Günter Grass as well. What I do like with both Safran Foer and Murakami is at least that's how I see it, their freedom in the way they're writing. They seem to say that, okay, I want to do this, so I'm just doing it. Like, for instance, Safran Foer with the included graphics in his second novel, or Murakami, who just kind of strolls along in his prose, and it takes the routes it takes almost accidentally, it feels.
Right.
I'm probably more of a planned writer, I think, than Murakami. I could never just start and see where it goes. I have to know where I'm supposed to go, so I can deviate from the plan all the time and just get lost in it.
Well, speaking of this, when can we expect your next American book?
Well, first I have to get home, of course.
Yes.
Since I'm now in New York, but if all goes well, it could be out in Norway in 2012, next year. So then after that, it's up to Seven Stories Press, of course.
I see. As quickly as we can do it. As quickly as we can do it. Okay, Johan, I wanted to thank you very much.
Thank you.
And everyone has to buy this book, Buzz Aldrin, What Happened to You and All the Confusion. On sale everywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you.